very good morning to all my dear students. Hope you all are keeping well, keeping yourself at home. Today we are going to discuss a poem written by Emily Dickinson, and the title of the poem is Because I Could Not Stop for Death. Let me tell you just a few facts about Emily Dickinson, the poet. She died quite young, as you can see in the picture as well. She seems to be quite young. And the second fact is that most of her poems deal with the theme of death. It's quite surprising, but it's a fact. She has not mourned over the death in her poems. She celebrates the death. In most of the poems, she tries to personify, and the present poem which we are going to discuss today, it actually personifies the death. And usually we see that the poem, the death, the word death or the element death, we consider it a female, maut aa gayi. But in this poem, she is going to address the death as he. So just here is a little bit difference between our language and her language. Maybe the concept is a little bit different. So when we talk about the poem, as you can see in this slide, there is a carriage, horse, a rider waiting for someone very patiently, maybe for the speaker. So the speaker, the moment she opens the poem, what lines she is going to recite about? Let's see. Here we have, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. He, the letter H, is in capital form. Here the poet has personified the death. What do you mean by personification? When the characteristics of human beings are endowed on some non-living thing, something which doesn't carry any kind of life in it. So that is personification. So here she has personified death. She says that she was unable to stop for the death, and that became the reason for the death, to wait for her, to stop by her house and wait for her patiently. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. Now here, if we look deeply, thoroughly, see the capitalization of the words. First one is the carriage. C is capitalized. Ourselves, O is capitalized, and in the word immortality, the letter I is capitalized. So what is the reason behind these capitalization of the first letter of these three words? First letter, it talks about the carriage. It means it is not the normal carriage she is talking about. The carriage is of the death itself. The entire life, the entire world is being carried by this carriage. Held but just ourselves. Only these two people. Which two people? The death itself and the speaker. This is again an imagination of the speaker, whatever she is going to discuss here about. Third word was and immortality. So third thing which the death carries is immortality. Now this is the perception of the speaker, not the death itself, because if we consider that man is mortal, how can a man be immortal then after the death? Here, this is the perception of the speaker, that immortality is there, and this immortality, this carriage, the horses, the death is going to take the speaker somewhere where death doesn't die. I hope the first stanza is clear. Let me revise again. In the first stanza, we have discussed about the opening of the poem, personification, the first device used here in the poem, and she has personified the death. Third thing, we have discussed about the capitalization of the words, of the letters of 3 words: carriage, ourselves, and immortality. In the next stanza, what does she say? We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We slowly drove. They are driving somewhere away, far away. He knew no haste, since the death is already carrying a person with him, the speaker. So he is in no haste. And I had put away the speaker. The speaker is humble as well, polite as well. The speaker has already put all his labor, all his leisures, everything aside. She is not at all bothered what the world has given her, whatever she carries in this world. She is not bothered about that. For his civility. Now, how can death be civil? Death cannot be civilized, or it can be. See, I'm using it here. But in the poem, because the death is a person to whom we are talking in the poem. So death is a civilized person, because the death is waiting for the speaker to hurry up, to just do away with her household chores, do away with whatever the worldly things she has to do, she must accomplish, and then she should accompany the death. So because of the civility, because of the politeness, the humility of the death, the speaker has spared each and everything. She has left each and everything. Next, where does the death take her? We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. Now, in the stanza, if you look closely, we passed the school where children strove at recess. When the speaker says that they are crossing or they are passing by a school where children are playing during the recess period, what does it stand for? Can you just name one device which the poet has used here? Yes, the poet has used which device? Which poetic device? Past the school where the children strove at recess in the ring. It is an imagery. She has used an image of school and children playing in the playground of the school to personify what? To personify the childhood age. So in this stanza, the poet has personified the childhood by using the images of school, children playing in the playground. They are passing by. That means the speaker has lived her childhood fully. After that, they are passing through. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Again, these two are personifications fields of gazing grain. When the grain is ready to be harvested, what does it mean? That the speaker is fully grown. She is ready to get married, and she is full of youth. In the next line, the poet says, we passed the setting sun. Setting sun here depicts the old age. So in this particular stanza, we have got three things and the three ages of a person. First one is the childhood, the second one is the youth age, and the third one is the old age. So the speaker and the death, they are passing through all the stages of life. She has crossed all the ages of her life in a very joyful manner. Now, what do we have here in the next stanza? Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew, quivering and chill. Now the speaker is a little bit surprised whether she has passed the life or the death has just passed by her. And then again in the next line, the poet says, the dews drew, quivering and chill. Again, it is metaphorical language. Extended metaphor has been used to depict the chilling weather itself is considered the death. Cool thing, a chilling thing, basically we can call it the death, because a person dies if there is too cold weather or too hot weather. This is a quite a strange thing for the speaker. For only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tully. For only gossamer. Now, why the speaker is feeling that chill in the weather? Because she is wearing a very thin layered gown, gossamer. You can see in the picture, you can pause it and then you can see the picture clearly, that the speaker talks about her gown, that the reason she is feeling the chill of the weather because the layer of the texture and the fabric of her gown is very thin. In the next, I am going to show you this in the first image, that is in the first image, this is called the tippet. In the 19th century, let me tell you here that the ladies, the woman, she used to carry a fur around her neck, and that is called a tippet. Tulle is a kind of texture which is used to tailor a dress, a wedding gown, or you must have in your mind when the girls, whichever girl is listening to this or watching this video, the girls used to wear the frocks when they were too young. At that time, the frills used to carry a different kind of thin tissue that is called tulle. So that becomes the reason the speaker feels the chill of the weather, because she is wearing a very thin gown and she forgot to carry her tippet along. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Now, which house she is talking about? Let's see. Okay, can you see in the image? There is a grave, the graveyard, a kind of church. Many graves, many tombs are there. So the swelling of the ground stands for a fresh grave which has just been built. Swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible. If the person is there inside the grave, how the roof can be visible to that person? That is quite surprising. The poet has said a very deep thing over here, that the speaker is actually standing by the side of her own grave. She is able to see the swollen earth, the swollen part of the land where her own grave is, and she says that when she was in the grave, she was not able to see what was there on the roof. Then the cornice in the ground. So in the ground, she is not able to see whatever is happening all around the world. Since then, there's centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day. She says it's been long that she had died, but still it feels as if it was just like one day, just a day has passed that she died. I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. So she was able to guess, she was able to see that the horses were actually heading towards the eternity. What do you mean by eternity? Where the life and the death, everything is neutral. Nobody lives, nobody dies. Everything is neutral. So that in that eternity, the death has taken the speaker to the world of eternity. So let's discuss about what the speaker, the poet has used, poetic devices used by the poet. The entire poem contains imagery to create the scene of the speaker traveling with death to the grave. Repetition, we passed, appears 3 times in the 3 stanza. That is repetition. Means the mundane tasks, whatever we do during whenever we are alive. Alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound. For example, recess, ring, grazing, grain, setting, sun, gossamer, gown, tippet, tule, horses, heads. So alliteration, what does alliteration do? It creates a kind of rhyme scheme. It gives rhythm to the poem. And then poetic devices, metaphor and personification. Metaphor, I have already told you. That let's read out. The character of death is used as an extended metaphor to examine what real death may be like. And secondly, the house is a metaphor for a grave. This shows the speaker accepts and is comfortable with dying. Then personification. Death is personified and is a guide leading the speaker to eternity. Time and again, the death has been addressed as he. He kindly stopped for me. He knew no haste. His civility. We paused before a house. And the last but not the least, here again it has personified something, and this the line in the poem was, the dews grew quivering and chill. The weather has been personified as a human being, that the weather itself became quite chilling. The speaker felt the chill, the cold, the coolness in her body. And that's it. Here I end my lecture. I hope you have understood whatever we have studied today. If you have any query related to this poem, you may please write down in the comment box. I'll see you in the next lecture. Stay at home, stay safe and study hard. Thank you very much.